The young and the restless spoilers for months, whispers and wild theories had swirled around the mysterious kidnapping case that had rocked the community. Many fans and even some insiders were convinced that Michael, the notorious figure with a troubled past, was behind the abduction. They clamored for his arrest, certain that he was the mastermind behind the crime. Yet, as the investigation unfolded, it became chillingly clear that the true architect was someone entirely unexpected, a presence so enigmatic that it defied all preconceived notions. In the dead of night, a new figure emerged from the darkness, a man known only as Chance. Cloaked entirely in black and hidden behind a sleek, form-fitting mask, Chance moved with an eerie confidence. His voice, warped and distorted by sophisticated voice-modifying software, was unrecognizable to even those who once knew him. To Phyllis and Sharon, who had been entangled in the turbulent events surrounding the kidnapping, his altered tone rendered him a ghost, a stranger whose presence unsettled their every instinct. But there was more to Chance than met the eye. Underneath the enigmatic exterior, Chance was a dedicated policeman, a law enforcer revered by the public for his unwavering commitment to justice. His impeccable record and the admiration he had earned over the years made it almost impossible to reconcile his image with the cryptic actions he now undertook. Expert in every nuance of the law, Chance wielded his authority with the precision of a seasoned professional, but he also possessed an uncanny ability to misdirect. Through carefully crafted conclusions and misinterpretations, he managed to steer the narrative away from the truth, ensuring that suspicion never fell upon him or those he secretly protected. Unbeknownst to many, Chance was not operating in isolation. Two men, Nick and Daniel, had become his unlikely confidants. They routinely shared snippets of information and crucial insights with him, believing that their collaboration would help piece together the perplexing puzzle. However, while Daniel was earnest and dutiful in his communications, Nick, ever the perceptive and cautious strategist, had detected subtle discrepancies in Chance's behavior. Something about his mannerisms and the inconsistencies in his explanations set off alarm bells in Nick's mind. Trusting his intuition, Nick began to fabricate his own reports, deliberately concealing his true thoughts and observations about Chance from the others. Daniel's role, meanwhile, had grown increasingly complex. Tasked with the responsibility of keeping a vigilant eye on Chance's every move, he found himself entangled in a covert operation where each step could reveal new facets of the truth, or plunge them deeper into deception. To add another layer of surveillance, Daniel hatched a risky plan. He would plant Summer, his girlfriend and a trusted ally, into the mix. By weaving her into the unfolding events, he hoped to gain an even closer insight into Chance's operations, confident that her presence would keep the masked officer constantly on guard. But this subterfuge came with its own dangers. If Chance suspected anything amiss, the entire delicate balance of their clandestine collaboration could be shattered, leaving them all vulnerable to exposure. The pressing question that haunted everyone involved was simple yet profound: why would Chance, a celebrated officer with a spotless reputation and the love of the community, choose to engage in such elaborate deceit? His actions, on the surface, painted the picture of a man acting out of character, a guardian of justice turned puppet master, orchestrating a web of lies that left his colleagues and adversaries alike in utter disarray. To many, his behavior was inexplicable and terrifying. It was as if, beneath that unyielding exterior, a darker force was at work. One that manipulated even the most virtuous hearts into betraying their own ideals. For fans of the case, the mystery only deepened as layers of ambiguity and suspicion piled on. How could a man so universally respected and seemingly incorruptible become the architect of such chaos? Some speculated that Chance had his own hidden agenda, perhaps a personal vendetta or an undisclosed connection to a past scandal that even he could not escape. Others believed that Chance was merely a pawn, a cog in a much larger, more sinister machine controlled by unseen powers. The truth, however, remained shrouded in darkness, with each new piece of evidence only adding to the enigma rather than resolving it. In the midst of this labyrinthine investigation, the interplay between truth and deception became increasingly perilous. Nick's careful fabrications and guarded admissions to Chance were a double-edged sword, while they kept his suspicions hidden, they also sowed seeds of doubt among the others who trusted him implicitly. Daniel, torn between his loyalty to his partner and the moral implications of his undercover task, wrestled with the ethical cost of his actions. The stakes were extraordinarily high. With every covert meeting, every discreet exchange of information, the specter of betrayal loomed larger, threatening to unravel not only their efforts to solve the kidnapping but also their very sense of identity and trust. As the investigation pressed on, the lines between friend and foe blurred in the most unsettling ways. The overseer of this clandestine operation, Chance himself, remained ever vigilant, his masked visage a constant reminder of the fragility of human nature when confronted with the pressures of survival and duty. His mastery of misdirection and his intimate knowledge of the law allowed him to orchestrate events with surgical precision, ensuring that every misstep by those around him only furthered his own mysterious objectives. And yet, amid the chaos and calculated manipulation, a question persisted in the hearts of those who observed him. Could the man who had once been a paragon of justice truly be capable of such moral ambiguity? Or was he, in fact, sacrificing his own soul on the altar of a higher purpose that none could comprehend? The intricate dance of suspicion, loyalty, and deception continued unabated. Daniel, with his unyielding determination to document every detail of Chance's actions, remained resolute in his mission. His covert observations and the subtle cues he collected about Summer's interactions with Chance hinted at a complex web of influence and counterinfluence. Each small discovery brought him closer to a breakthrough, yet each also exposed him to greater risks, the possibility of falling into a trap meticulously laid by the very man he was supposed to be watching. Summer, initially unaware of the true nature of the investigation, found herself gradually drawn into the dangerous orbit of Chance's world. Her interactions with him were laced with tension and unspoken questions. The knowledge that she was being used as a means to an end gnawed at Daniel's conscience, even as it provided him with a critical vantage point to scrutinize every nuance of Chance's behavior. In the silence of covert meetings and whispered exchanges, the group wrestled with the possibility that the truth might be far more convoluted and sinister than any of them had ever imagined. Amid the mounting pressure, Nick's intuition proved both a blessing and a curse. His ability to detect the subtle anomalies in Chance's demeanor allowed him to maintain a cautious distance, yet his decision to mask his true thoughts sowed seeds of mistrust among his peers. Every shared piece of intelligence became a potential liability, a reminder that in the realm of secrets and shadows, even the closest allies could become adversaries with a single misstep. In the end, as the investigation hurtled toward a climax filled with tension, uncertainty, and moral ambiguity, the true question remained: would Nick and Daniel be able to gather enough concrete evidence to expose the hidden agenda of Chance, or would the masked officer's cunning strategies and deep-rooted understanding of the law continue to deflect every attempt at revelation? The answer was a mystery wrapped in layers of deceit, a puzzle that seemed designed to test the very limits of human trust and resilience. The stakes had never been higher. With every passing moment, the clock ticked closer to a confrontation that promised to redefine the boundaries of loyalty and justice. And in the heart of it all, Chance, cloaked in darkness and armed with secrets, stood as both the protector and the predator, his true motives hidden behind a mask that concealed more than just his face. The deadly game of cat and mouse had only just begun, and the outcome would determine not only the fate of the kidnapping investigation but also the very essence of what it meant to be a guardian of the law in a world where truth was as elusive as it was dangerous. In the undercurrents of Genoa's shifting power dynamics, the line between duty and deception had never been thinner. Rumors swirled through the darkened corridors of the city's underworld. Was Chance, the well-respected policeman, truly being coerced by an unseen puppeteer, or was he orchestrating a far more intricate plan of his own? The very notion was as chilling as it was captivating, a tale of loyalty, manipulation, and the desperate need for balance in a world teetering on the brink of chaos. Chance had long been known as a bastion of justice, a man who upheld the law with an unwavering commitment. Yet lately, his actions had raised more questions than answers. Observers whispered that perhaps he had been bribed, forced to follow orders from a mysterious figure whose influence extended far beyond the confines of the police force. But a closer look at his behavior suggested another possibility. Chance was calculating, methodically reshaping the volatile situation in Genoa to serve a higher, albeit murky, purpose. For years, Chance had grown weary of watching Sharon and Phyllis continuously clash, their personal grievances spiraling into conflicts that left both of them, and everyone caught in the crossfire, exhausted. The two women, once close in purpose despite their differing natures, now found themselves locked in a relentless cycle of discord. Although their quarrels seldom threatened to tear apart the fragile fabric of their world, the endless bickering was symptomatic of a larger, unresolved tension. Chance believed that reconciliation between them was essential to restore a semblance of order in a city already reeling under the weight of its own dark secrets. Realizing that straightforward negotiations would likely fall on deaf ears, Chance decided to take an unorthodox route. Drawing upon his deep understanding of human behavior and the rules that governed his own clandestine realm, he devised a game. It was a twisted sort of reconciliation, where every move, every sacrifice, and every revelation was meticulously orchestrated to drive the two warring factions toward an inevitable compromise. His plan was as simple as it was brutal. By forcing Sharon and Phyllis into situations where the stakes were uncomfortably high, he would compel them to recognize that their survival depended on unity rather than division. Chance's strategy was not born out of cruelty but of necessity. The chaos of their daily conflict had reached a tipping point, and with the city of Genoa hanging in the balance, every wasted moment only pushed them closer to the edge of disaster. To that end, Chance began to provide for Sharon with unerring regularity, even as she remained confined, her life meticulously controlled within the parameters he set. Every essential supply, every morsel of comfort, was delivered with the cold precision of someone who had calculated the exact moment when freedom would be restored. In his eyes, this was not merely a duty as a policeman, it was an act of calculated mercy aimed at ensuring that the inevitable reconciliation would come at the least possible cost. But not everyone viewed Chance's actions with the same calm logic. Nick, a keen observer with instincts honed by years of navigating the treacherous underbelly of Genoa, had begun to see patterns that troubled him deeply. His suspicions grew as he noted the regularity of Chance's interventions, almost as if they were designed not only to manage the situation but to control it entirely. In the recesses of his mind, Nick began to wonder if Chance's loyalty had been compromised. Was he simply a tool, manipulated by external forces for an agenda that none of them fully understood? Or was he playing a deeper game, one in which every sacrifice, every carefully measured act of control, was meant to lead to a far more dramatic shift in the city's power structure? The tension reached a fever pitch one fateful night in the control room, a stark, cold chamber lined with screens displaying live feeds from every corner of Genoa. Nick stood before a vast array of monitors, his eyes darting between images of Sharon's controlled quarters and the calculated maneuvers of Chance on the field. Every detail, every seemingly innocuous act of supply delivery, painted a picture of a man who was not only in command but also ruthlessly determined to shape the future. In that moment, the thought that had been festering in Nick's mind boiled over. What if Chance's ultimate objective was to completely alter the state of affairs in Genoa, regardless of the human cost? Fueled by a mix of righteous anger and a desperate desire for clarity, Nick's mind raced through a series of radical possibilities. What if the game Chance had set in motion was merely a prelude, a test, perhaps, to see if the fragile alliance between Sharon and Phyllis could hold? And if it failed? Could the fallout be so catastrophic that it justified taking drastic measures? The idea of smashing the control room, of ending Chance's reign of calculated manipulations by force, grew increasingly appealing. In Nick's eyes, if Chance was indeed orchestrating a scenario where human lives were the price of a grand scheme, then it was a betrayal too grave to tolerate. At the heart of the controversy lay the dichotomy of Chance's actions. To many, he remained the epitome of the dedicated, honorable officer, exhausted by the endless infighting yet determined to uphold a sense of order. To others like Nick, however, his every move was laced with an undercurrent of sinister calculation. The meticulously provided supplies, the comfortable albeit confining environment for Sharon, and the seemingly benign game of reconciliation were all pieces in a puzzle that, when fully assembled, could reveal a landscape of power manipulated by unseen hands. The larger question loomed ominously: was Chance acting out of coercion, his actions dictated by someone who had bought his loyalty? Or was he, in fact, the architect of a grand design aimed at transforming Genoa's troubled status quo? And if it was the latter, what end did he envision? A city reborn from the ashes of its own strife, or a dystopia where survival depended solely on the whims of a masked, calculating enforcer? As night deepened and the city outside remained shrouded in darkness, Nick's resolve hardened. The thought of him storming the control room, a final, desperate act to end the relentless game, and killing Chance if necessary, became an ever-present specter in his mind. It was not merely about stopping a man who might have lost his way, it was about preserving the integrity of a community that was already on the brink of self-destruction. Nick could no longer stand by and watch as Chance's every action, whether driven by a hidden agenda or the twisted logic of a desperate survival tactic, eroded the delicate balance that held Genoa together. In this perilous moment, the fate of Sharon and Phyllis, and indeed the future of the entire city, hung in the balance. Would Chance's calculated game ultimately lead to reconciliation and a semblance of order? Or would it crumble under the weight of betrayal and manipulation, paving the way for further chaos? And most critically, would Nick's burning desire for retribution be the catalyst that finally shattered the illusion of control, or would it only add another layer of bloodshed to a story already marred by tragedy? As the control room hummed with the quiet efficiency of its machinery and the monitors flickered with the lives of those ensnared in the game, the answer remained elusive. Chance, with his masked visage and distorted voice, continued to orchestrate his plans from behind the veil of secrecy. Whether he was a pawn or a master of his own destiny, one thing was clear: in Genoa, every action had a consequence, and the price of survival was measured in the currency of trust, loyalty, and ultimately, blood. In the quiet moments before dawn, as Nick prepared for what might be the final confrontation, the weight of his decision pressed heavily on him. The potential destruction of the control room, and the life of Chance that might come with it, was not just an act of personal vengeance, it was a declaration that, in a world ruled by calculated games and hidden agendas, the time for passive observation had ended. Whether Chance's ultimate gamble would pay off or bring about his downfall, only time would reveal. But one truth remained undeniable. In the struggle for control and redemption, every choice was a double-edged sword, and the future of Genoa would be shaped by the sacrifices made in the darkest of hours.